So, I know this came out a few days ago, but I was unfortunately unwell over the weekend, so I didn't get a chance to see Captain America Brave New World, but I saw it last night, and I really enjoyed it. Captain America Brave New World sees Sam Wilson, played by Anthony Mackie, take on his new role as Captain America and face a new threat. So, I kept the plot vague on purpose, because there is a lot going on here. A lot of this I'm probably going to talk about in spoilers. We are going to have a spoiler section, and I'm just going to go through my vague thoughts first. So before I start this review, I do just want to say I'm coming from this on the perspective of, I think the last Marvel or MCU film I saw was Deadpool and Wolverine, and before that, I'm not entirely sure. After Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, I hadn't really kept up with the MCU that much. I felt like it was it didn't really know where it was going. I still don't really see how it's going to get to its end goal of the next Avengers film. I'm not entirely sure how it's going to get to that point, and I'll talk a bit more about that in spoilers as well, because there's something that's brought up in this film that I'm a bit confused by. But overall, I really enjoyed this. I think that Anthony Mackie is brilliant as Sam Wilson, and I've always really liked him. I feel like in the other films he was always underused, and I think he could have been a really interesting character. So while I thought Falcon and the Winter Soldier was kind of just okay, I actually liked that they did focus more on Sam after the blip, after everything that happened. And I think his side of things was really interesting. I think him taking up the role of Captain America is especially interesting. And in the comics, he's actually been Captain America for quite a while. So in terms of the comics, it's not a new thing, but in terms of the films, obviously this is a new thing that's happening. I think he's a really interesting Captain America because he is someone who didn't take the super soldier serum, and it's something that he sort of questions in this film and in the show. Aside from the vibranium suit that he's been given from Wakanda, he doesn't have super strength. You know, he doesn't have all of the abilities that Steve Rogers had, but that's what makes him special. That's what makes him stand out, because we'll see, okay, well, he's human like us. He didn't get any, special advantage or anything like that. And some of this, I apologise, most of this I'm going to have to talk about in spoilers, because there's something else I want to bring up that reflects onto that. So, yeah, I'll further talk about that in spoilers, but I think it's because he's a regular guy that's been given just a suit and that's it, that I think that's what makes him special. And the fact that he keeps questioning why is he Captain America, I think is why he should be Captain America. I really like him. I think now that he's Captain America, I think it's going to be a lot more interesting compared to, while Steve Rogers was interesting because he had a good heart and good morals, he, like I said, he had that sort of special advantage of the serum, whereas Sam doesn't. And the chemistry between Anthony Mackie and Danny Ramirez, who plays Joaquin Torres, that's another recurring character from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I really liked their chemistry as well. I think they really work well on screen together. Joaquin Torres is now taking on the Falcon role, which, from what I remember, was a thing in or near the end of the show. I apologise, I watched it once and then and that was it, so I apologise. Feel free in the comments if I've got it wrong to say I'm wrong, but yeah, so he's now taking up the Falcon role, which I think is good. I really like their on-screen chemistry together, their friendship together, and I hope he is in the future Captain America films with Anthony Mackie. Yes, Captain America is going to have another film. There was a thing at the very end that said Captain America will return, so this is going to continue on, which I'm glad. I hope it does, because this is definitely one that I'm interested in. And Harrison Ford makes his first appearance in an MCU film, which I didn't know how that was going to go. So he plays President Ross and another character. I mean, if you've seen the marketing, you know what it is. But again, I'll leave it to spoilers to talk about that. Harrison Ford is an interesting one, I think, because especially in recent times with the franchises he's gone back to, Indiana Jones, Star Wars, it always feels like he's just there for a paycheck. He's just there for the money, which is fine, but his acting isn't always great because of that. He's really good in this. He is actually brilliant in this. It seems that it feels like he's gone, okay, if you're going to finally put me in a Marvel film, I'm going to put my all in it. And he actually really does, which I was very impressed with. I really, really thought his character was interesting for the most part. And he was really good in this, actually. I was quite surprised. Because, like I've said, the previous films he's been in, he hasn't really given it his all. So I was quite impressed this time round. If I were to give the film any criticisms, I think one, a lot of the fight choreography, camera work was really difficult to follow. There's especially two big fight scenes that I found really, really difficult to follow, mainly because the camera was moving so quickly. And it did make it difficult to focus on. And also, now I don't know if this is on the film or whether this is the particular cinema I saw it in, but the volume was really weird. The volume mix was very strange, especially it was very evident from the very first scene as well, where the volume between the music and the dialogue was all over the place. I actually couldn't hear the dialogue in the opening scene because the music was so blaring, but I don't know if that's the film or just the screening I saw it in. But I did find that I had a bit of a problem with that. So, I don't know. Comment if you had the same issue, if it's just my cinema or if it was the film. But yeah, I did find the volume between the dialogue and the music all over the place at times, where I couldn't really hear them sometimes, or the music was too low and the volume on the dialogue was too high. So yeah, comment and let me know to see if you guys had the same problem, because I couldn't tell if it was the film or just the cinema that I saw it in. So that was my spoiler-free thoughts on Captain America Brave New World. So we're going to get to spoilers. This is probably going to be the bigger part of the video. It always is. So let's go. So that's just a really small point I want to bring up, but at the beginning I said that actually Sam works as Captain America because he is just a regular guy with a Wakanda suit, and one of the characters that shows up very briefly for a scene is Bucky. And at one point, this is the conversation where Sam says, you know, why did Steve give me the shield? I should have taken the serum. I still don't get why he gave me the shield and wanted me to be Captain America. And Bucky at one point says that people believed in Steve Rogers when he took the super serum. They realised that this technology worked and they believed in him. But with you, people aspire to be you because you are just human. And this is what I was saying in my spoiler-free section, where I said that he didn't get any special advantage or anything. But I think that's a good thing, because then it means that, you know, by this point, anyone could be Captain America. I think there's going to be just some divide on what people think of that, but I really, really like it personally. And it was really cool to have Bucky show up for like one scene to have that moment, because again, they've already shared a series together, so it did kind of make sense for him to come back. Okay, so Harrison Ford is the Red Hulk. Which, by the way, yes, that is an actual comic book character. I know that when the very first trailer came out, everyone kind of said, really? Like, are you just making this up for the film? No, it's been a comic book character for quite a long time. And admittedly, I don't know the origins or the original origins of the Red Hulk. But yeah, that's who Harrison Ford ultimately ends up as. This was heavily marketed, this is on the posters, this is on all the, you know, the trailers and stuff. The fight scene between the Red Hulk and Captain America happened in the last 10 to 15 minutes. So, this is an example of film making it seem like a really small thing is a really big focus. And throughout the film, it does sort of tease that something's up with President Ross. Like, he keeps taking these pills, and it keeps sort of hinting at something. But to be honest, again, if you've seen the posters, if you've seen the trailers, you know what that is. You're just waiting for it to happen. And it does happen in the last 10 to 15 minutes. So that was a bit... I'm a bit unsure on that one. I liked the transformation scene itself. And even the CGI on the Red Hulk was actually great. Even, especially around the face. Like, around the facial area. That was really, really good. And that was really well done. But it's just a bit... I guess they had to market it in some way, but it is just a bit strange to have that final battle scene be the main marketing tactic of your film. I will say another thing I did like about the film, though, is that plot points that you thought were forgotten by the MCU are actually brought up here. So the Abomination from the 2008 Hulk film is brought up, and the main plot point is I think it's at the end of the Eternals, with the big celestial being going into the ocean. And then the rest of the film's just continued on as if that wasn't relevant, like there wasn't a big, huge giant in the ocean. This brings it back into focus. This is one of the big, plot points of the film is... okay, well, this celestial actually has adamantium in it, which is stronger than vibranium. So now America's going to contain it. We've got this big peace treaty between everyone, and we're going to share out this adamantium to the world and share it all out equally. And this celestial being is the main plot point of this film. And I really, really like that. It shows that actually... whether or not this was thought about later or not, I don't know, or whether this was always planned when the Eternals came out, but I like that they remembered this. It seems like a pretty big thing to kind of forget about, but I'm glad they remembered that this existed. And then just to finish off this review, I have a few questions. So the first one, at the beginning... President Ross brings Captain America, or invites Captain America to the White House and puts him into a meeting, just one-to-one, and he says, President Ross essentially says, I'm wanting to rebuild the Avengers. Which, in fairness, Sam Wilson does say why you tore it down yourself. Why do you want to bring them back? I don't understand that, and I'm with Sam on that one. I didn't really get that, and it does feel like... I know that the MCU is in a complete mess at the moment, and I know that they do have 2 Avengers films that they're wanting to build up to, and they've got to build it up in some way and find a direction that will get to that goal. But I feel like this particular scene was really forced. I don't really understand why that's happening, and especially with the film ends with President Ross now in the raft, which is like a prison in the middle of the ocean, in the middle of nowhere, and that's it. So I don't really know how that's going to work now. It seems like a really forced decision for Marvel to plant that seed and be like, oh, we're going to bring the Avengers back. But I don't know, it feels very forced, very shoehorned in, and it does seem like they're kind of panicking because they don't really know how to get to the next 2 Avengers films. So they're kind of just throwing anything at the wall at the moment to see what sticks, and this feels like one of them. I mean, at the same time, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm coming into this not really following much of the MCU anymore, so maybe I've missed a few films or a show or something that's already filled that in. So I apologise in advance if that is the case. And yeah, feel free to comment if that is the case and I've missed something that's mentioned this before. But if not, then the decision feels very forced and very shoehorned in. And it does feel like the MCU, Marvel Studios, is trying to find a way to get to that goal and just throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks. Again, another one that I don't know if it's been mentioned, Serpent is an organisation that's mentioned at the beginning of the film and is an overall theme in this film. Is that going to come back? I feel like that's probably going to come back at some point. But if that organisation has been mentioned before, then I apologise. And then lastly, has adamantium been mentioned before? I swear it has. This is the thing. I used to follow the films so much and now I don't really anymore. So yeah, I apologise if stuff like this has been mentioned before. And I could have done research before going into this film, before going into recording this video. But I wanted to go into this all blindly to just review it on its own merits as its own film. But I also understand that with Marvel Studios, you kind of you've got to be along for the journey by this point, and especially even at this point as well with all the shows. So I do understand that at the same time, so I apologise if adamantium has been mentioned before, probably in the Eternals, but I don't really remember that film, aside from the huge giant going into the ocean. That was kind of it, so I do apologise in advance. But I mean, I overall enjoyed Captain America Brave New World. I thought it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. I do have a few problems with it, like I mentioned. I think the fighting choreography is a bit clunky and difficult to follow, and then the sound mix was really uneven. But again, I don't know if that's on the film or to do with the cinema that I saw it in. But I really, really enjoyed this. But I was Megan. This is Battle Royale with Cheese. See you soon.